It's time for me to talk about what Syncweaver just supered us saying. What do you think the new player experience is like for WoW right now? I just started WoW coming from FF because I was curious. That's an interesting way to do it. Okay, right. It's very different from FF. FF's new player experience is, I think, in some ways better, but in other ways more rough than WoW's. So like with WoW, you go straight into Exile's Reach, and you kind of immediately just get, it's WoW. Pressing buttons is fun in WoW. I will always contend that. You know, like, assuming it's not a world boss where the whole zone's lagging out, just doing your buttons feels great in WoW. So, you immediately get that incredible responsiveness that Blizzard have managed to achieve with World of Warcraft. And you just get, like, a nice, simple, basic story. Gives you the basics. Like, I don't think it's anything that's super amazing, but, like, it's quite good. It's quite good, so I give that a thumbs up. Absolutely. And my favorite bit of Exile's Reach, though, is actually when you reach Stormwind, or wherever for the first time, where it just kind of feels like you're back from an adventure, and now it's like, okay, cool, it's time to go. Now, they then throw you into Battle for Azeroth, which I understand why, because they wanted you to get the most modern questing content they have done. But I think it would be a bit jarring for people, because they don't really know what's up with Battle for Azeroth. So it's quite tricky. You know, I'd almost wonder if it would have made sense to spend more time just like setting the player up with like some of the history of the world. And they've also painted themselves into a corner where BFA is now actually the starting experience of World of Warcraft for the next decade. You know, it's like the expected starting place for new players. Yeah, so that's definitely something to think about. I mean, it's definitely better. It's better than it's ever been. Chromie time is a great feature. It's a pity that they throw you out of Chromie time once you hit level 50. I don't know if they ever removed that.
I believe that's completely in there, where it's just, oh, you're done, out you go.
Yeah, because it's like, it's not great if you're enjoying a zone, and then you're like yoinked out before you finish the quest. So that is odd. I mean, certainly FF just tells me I need to do dungeons for the main quest, and I really think WoW should do that as well. But they don't have much of a narrative structure or like a way to do that, which I think is a little bit tricky. And I guess the sort of thing where WoW doesn't support that because it doesn't have something like roulettes. You know, it's just leveling dungeons, which does limit the sort of player pool. As for FF's new player experience, like, not gonna lie, you log into FF and it feels old. It does not feel as responsive as WoW. Graphically, like, you go to Gridania and you're like, oh my god, anti-aliasing, what's going on? You know, you have loads of issues sort of in and along those lines, which, you know, those things are unfortunate. And it's also the slowest part of the story from what I understand. You know, like, I got my tune up to like level 31 in like, I think it was like 2 or 3 settings. And, you know, it was fun, like, being introduced to the Scions, doing all of that stuff. I thought that was all really cool and fun. But admittedly, like, that bit where you're Helvings at the Serfs, or the Beast Tribe in Gridania, you know, there are little bits where the plot line just is a bit slow in terms of its pacing. And there's also times where, you know, what's going on is not immediately gripping, but in order to overall enjoy it, you really do have to read it because it's in the story. So it's like, I feel like for your average player, they trade blows in terms of who has the better new player experience, honestly. I think so anyway. I just think the difference is the increase in quality in that quest content that, you know, FF seems to have.
Yeah, I think the new player experience suffers in FF, but that's out of necessity because, you know, it's almost like there's an incredible book series and the first 2 books are kind of ass, but the last couple books are really good. But you can't really just say, well, don't read the first 2 books because you're not going to understand them.
Yeah.
You're not going to get everything from them. So it suffers from the fact it's linear. But I think the new player experience there suffers in order to make the less new player experience significantly better. That's what I feel anyway. Especially because, it's like we were talking about on the last stream, which was earlier today, which is the idea of the gameplay follows that track, where you will be so bored for so long from what buttons you're pressing. But
Love pressing heavy shot.
Yeah, you've got your heavy shot. You've got 1 dot. There you go. That's you for ages. So then you've got that problem, and it all kind of compounds. So you do really have to, like, it's not like it's terrible. it's just the worst of the bunch, and it can be especially slow in the early parts where it is just it's more of a pacing issue than a quality issue. I find where the pacing is the part that's really scuffed, and that's why people keep talking about is it tightens the wall, where if you can get to unlock the Titan fight, then you're past the most scuffed part of the early experience, the slowest, most boring pacing.
Yeah.
But then after that, once you're done with that, it does speed up until it. I mean, I think they cut the majority of A Realm Reborn's quests after that point, because I remember the late 40s being a real slog, and I really challenged me to get through. I was like, this is really just, I'm going back to the Waking Sands.
At what point were you playing that? This is 2 years ago.
This would have been
actually this is more than 2 years ago.
This is years ago. This is before not before I met you. This is before I was.
Yeah, because you've played this game for 6-7 years, on and off.
Yeah,
I mean, it's mostly on now.
Yeah,
it's clustered around now, but
Yeah, no, I was playing at the launch of. I can't remember if I played anything before. Because I played 1.0. I think I played some 2.0, and then I really I burst the whole way up to mid Heavensward during the Heavensward expansion, and then I think it might have been Legion that happened, or something like that. I'm not sure of the timelines there, because it maybe it was a bit earlier than that, but something happened to tear me away from it, and then I never got back to it until a couple years later, and then I went through Stormblood. But I've been playing it for basically I had a significantly worse paced A Realm Reborn than players have now. Gotcha. Which is where a lot of my trepidation comes from. It is because it is just there's some parts that are really speak to this person on the other side of the world, come back and speak to this person on the other side of the world. If anyone's played it recently, you can do that. Every time you do that, you basically had to do it 2 or 3 more times. Originally, it was
damn.
Really, it was quite brutal, but I mean, I'm completely happy to actually have that. I'm happy to have that entire experience behind me now, and I'm more than willing to go back and do A Realm Reborn New Game Plus now, because I'm so engaged by Shadowbringers and how it and some of the Stormblood stuff pulls 2.0 things back into the light.
That's interesting. Certainly, not everyone would believe that you've been in and around this game for a long time.
Yeah, but I think it's especially with FF, I've always been really trepidatious to go and learn a lot of stuff, because every time I've learned something or someone told me something, the game later told me. So my current experience is I won't really know a whole bunch of things until I've personally engaged with them, or until Matt has told me about them in depth, which he's great for doing. He's great for doing, but I really just enjoy going into stuff blind. Like the Baja incident.
That's definitely how to do it.
Yeah, because I know what the Baja incident event was, but I didn't know anything about that intro duty. But if I looked up, how do I unlock Baja? How do I unlock the Baja in Southern Front? We'll do this duty, blah 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 blah. And I'm just okay, well, sweet, whatever. But now I know what the duty's about. Whereas I went in completely blind, and it's just so much. It's one of those things where it's some of my personal philosophy on games, where I'm just the less I know, the better, because the less tainted I'll be, the less biased I'll be going in.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And I really, really value that a lot. Whereas someone like John is happy to be relatively spoiled on minor and even sometimes major things.
I can't do that. That's why I've basically tried to stay as blind as I can about FF, and you've been saving me from spoilers the whole time.
Yeah, that's because people are. It's weird. There's just so much joy to be found in that experience overall that I just love it.